think the most important thing is not to sit on whatever position you have. Try to get better, right? Because if you sit somewhere, you want really progress, you want to learn new skills. It is comfortable, and sometimes you need a bit of comfort in your life, of course. But there is this saying, really, try to be a better version of yourself every day, right? Improve a little bit every day.
Welcome to another episode of Tax Leaders Unplugged, where we go beyond the numbers and the rules, delving into the essence of leadership in the tax world. I'm your host, Stevi Frooninckx, and the focus isn't on tax technicalities, it's on the people behind them. Join us for in-depth conversations with leading in-house tax professionals exploring collaboration, team management, and career development. Stay tuned for unique insights and advice you won't find on Google, tailored to enhance your tax leadership journey. Our guest for today is Tom Borec, and Tom is the head of tax at Dermavant Sciences. Tom is Switzerland-based. He arrived in Switzerland 16 years ago for a one-year secondment, and he's still here. And before, Tom was the tax director at eBay and the head of tax at MTS Global. He started his career very traditionally working at PwC and Deloitte, so in advisory. And outside of work, you can find him hiking in the Alps, stand-up paddling, running with his husky dog, and landscaping his gardens. In our conversation, Tom shared the milestones on the path to becoming a head of tax and the role an MBA can play, how to add value as a head of tax, and the difference between protecting value and creating value in an in-house tax context. And also the relevance of having a strong relationship with your manager, which will result in more important work on your desk and more learnings for yourself. Tom, welcome.
Hi, Stevi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. I also saw that you recently did an MBA, and that triggered also my attention because I'm always wondering, what makes busy people like yourselves, heads of tax, what makes them decide to go on an MBA journey? Tell us a bit, how did that get started for you?
So essentially, it's kind of self-reflection, right? It's after couple of years or decades in tax, I came to realization, hey, I'm good at certain things, I'm missing some things, I want to improve myself. What are the gaps, right? And MBA sounded like a great idea because in the years when you're working as a consultant and also in-house, you come across business. I mean, you cannot not come across business, right? But they use all these expressions, they have their values. I mean, they're kind of different from tax, right? And if you want to be a head of tax, or if you want to contribute and add value, you need to understand your stakeholders. And what better way to understand the stakeholders to actually have some sort of business administration education. And I was lucky, I was accepted to St. Gallen University at this international executive management course, which lasted 2 years. And again, of course, it was during Corona, so it was fun. They had to pivot really a lot, right? But the thing was, in the end, is how much do you take away from it, right? Because it could be just certification, and everybody can have certifications. In the end, the idea is what new experiences and knowledge and insights you get from this, and can you use it, for yourself? Can you use it for the business? Can you do something from it? Can you improve yourself? And interesting, the thesis I did, I think that might interest you as well, is I actually compared, I wanted to do first, the first idea was, yeah, let's do something about taxes. And then I said, no, come on, I'm doing this the whole life. That would be boring. I'm not here because of taxes. I want to improve myself. So in the end, I connected the special operations, the Navy SEALs, with the startups. And it was really interesting thesis. And it's going to be even quoted by my mentor in his new book, The Scale Up Navigator. So, it's kind of a nice, dot on the end. to say, hey, that was a great experience. I can show something for it.
And if we go back to the reason why you started, so is that correct to summarize that this was for broadening your skill set, to zoom out a bit of the tax technical and go a bit more into the business aspects in general?
Yeah, I think it's the idea is to be a better leader, right? And better business man, entrepreneur. So a lot of what we learned there was about, yes, there were basic core skills like financial management and, finances for executives. But a lot of it is really entrepreneurial, how to think like entrepreneur. So for example, I think the best takeaway, if I can simplify it, was, it was in the past, I always said, oh, that's a problem, I have a solution, or I have a solution, let's find the problem. Now, these days, it's really, why are we doing something? What are we going to do about it? And how we are doing, is this circle, which is really, and now Sinek is talking about it, a lot of other thinkers are talking about it. But in the past, it had no meaning for me. Now I understand, if you do something, the first thing you need to answer is, why are we doing this? Because that's the first thing you need to communicate to your stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you take an example from taxes, in the past, we would say, oh, we have these new legislation, so we need to do something, right? But that's not really why. That's what at best. Maybe how we'll do it, right? But the why is, well, because we have two main values within tax, and one is we create value, and one is to protect value, right? That's the basics about it. And you need to explain those two things to your shareholders in a way they understand it. And in order to do this, you need to speak their language. And that's, I think, was, for me, the biggest takeaway from MBA. And I'm not saying everybody needs to take it. It just said it really helped me.
So it helps you it brought you a framework to, in your day-to-day activity, bring you more to the why you are doing things before you go to the how and the what, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a good summary. It's the idea is, can I expand my understanding of the world? Can I better understand my stakeholders, the people I speak to? Can I understand how I can help them? Can we be friends, so to say? Because if we are friends, we have, trust, we have relationship, we help each other, then the life is just easier. You can't do this if you don't speak the same language as they do.
Yeah, I get that. And I saw you promote it even in one of your posts as a kind of a stepping stone towards becoming a head of tax, so that getting an MBA, having an MBA accreditation is an important milestone. Why would you say, other than the things you already mentioned, like why would you promote other peers of yours or the people here in the audience at the in-house tax scene to go for an MBA?
Look, again, it depends. The path to the head of tax I undertook, it's not unique. It's something which worked out for me. I listened, the many other head of tax you interviewed before me, they all have their unique path to becoming head of tax. And those who will interview after me, will have their own. I'm pretty sure we have 10 heads of, tax leaders there. They will each tell you a different story. So I think it's not about MBA per se. It's about figuring out what knowledge, what skills, what experience is important to get to the position you're aiming for, right? Do a plan how to get it, and then fill in the gaps. Identify the gaps, fill in the gaps. It's like, any other plan. Like if you do tax structuring or any other plan in your life, or when you do the business plan or you want to go to market, right? You need to have a plan, and you need to figure out, these are my goals. Here is where I am. How do I connect the dots? What is missing? And the same thing was for me. I thought, hey, wow, that might be a good idea. Let's try it out, right?
Right.
And somebody else might need other things. and they need to prioritize what's important, what is not. I just, if you don't know anything else, if you have the opportunity to do it, it was a great experience for me. So I can recommend it, but somebody else might need some other experience.
Right. And what are, in your eyes, then the other important stepping stones, milestones towards becoming a head of tax?
Well, look, I mean, I'm a bit biased, right? When I'm looking for people for experience, I'm probably look at the people who went through a similar development cycle as myself. And that's not fair. That's not a fair statement, because I remember when I was still at PwC back in my old country, right? I had a relatively big tax team. I was a manager. I had like 15 people working for me. And I had people from all sorts of, I have somebody who was studying geology. I had a lot of people from law, a lot of people from economy, a lot of people who were just studying languages. Didn't matter, right? The idea was open mindset. I mean, you can always learn the rules. You can always learn to think. I think people can understand the logic, but they need to be open for new experiences, to open to learn new things, and then they can evolve. And I think that's a good starting point, right? So I would say it helps, or no, it doesn't help. It means if I see somebody who spent their first years in some sort of consultancy, it doesn't guarantee they're a really good person, but they probably went through a streamlined approach how to develop these basic skills, basic technical skills. So I would say they need basic technical skills. They need to have logic, how to work out the problems. They need to have this desire to solve problems, to find, to improve, to just becoming better version of themselves every day. That's a good start. And then afterwards, honestly, it's one thing, you improve your technical skills, but at some point it becomes really important how to deal with soft skills, communication, how to understand the needs and the priorities of your peers, right? How to communicate what is important, what connects you, how to do, what to do, the objectives, executive presentation, writing memos, right? I mean, these days, if I write the memo, the idea is topic, it's important because that's probably what will be read. The first two sentences are important because then it means maybe, people will understand it already, or they will then take time to read the next 5 sentences. And afterwards, honestly, it's nobody will read it, that's the way you need to approach it. That's the high level executive position, but you still need to do all the small print or the important things, because somebody might read it, your auditors might read it, or tax authorities might read it. So you need to be careful what you write, how you write, so that everybody gets their piece of information they're looking for. And these skills you learn by doing them, right? So I would say in the beginning, just to summarize, technical skills, and then the higher you get, the more soft skills, the more management skills, the more leadership skills, they become more and more important.
And what would you, because I assume a lot of tax managers will be listening here, in-house tax managers or around that level, what would you recommend them doing in anticipation on their way to becoming a head of tax, knowing that obviously the access to the exec committee and the senior management writing those memos is maybe not necessarily their day-to-day work? What can they already do to maybe flip a bit the balance from the tax technical skills to the soft skills and preparing for the head of tax skill set? Any practical recommendation you would give them based on how you did it yourself back in the days?
It turns out it's kind of important to have good relationship with your bosses, because if you understand what they want, they will give you more and more important work, and the more important work you have, the more you can learn. Then the other thing which is also important is to have an open mindset, right? Are you getting the things you need in your organization? Do you need to go somewhere else to get skills, right? Because a great example we had, for example, at eBay was we had this leadership development program, which essentially you took a manager and then they were shifted to different departments every on 6 month basis, right? There are many other organizations like UBS has it, many other organizations have something like that, right? Where you come in and you just go to different departments, get this broad knowledge of experience, right? And then you get promoted hopefully through this and you can see what is happening. So I would say have an open mind, try to get recruited in a program like that, right? Or if you need to switch between consulting and industry, get the skill set, which is important. And then, yes, I mean, I would still say MBA helps, but you might not need it. You might be also in an organization where you have like core development built in. GE used to be like that, 20 years ago. They were developing their leaders. And I mean, I know a lot of them who came from GE to other organizations. They were sensational leaders, right? But do something about your development. I think the most important thing is not to sit on whatever position you have. Try to get better, right? Because if you sit somewhere, you want really progress, you want to learn new skills. It is comfortable, and sometimes you need a bit of comfort in your life, of course. But there is this saying, really, try to be a better version of yourself every day, right? Improve a little bit every day. And if you have a plan what you want to do, then it will be easier to choose, what you need to do next instead of just do random things all around and hope for the best. Because hope is really not a good strategy.
Yeah. And I like that you said that really resonates to me. Like, if you have a better relationship with your manager, you get more important work, and the more important your work is, the more you will learn. I like that reasoning. What are things you can do to get there in terms of getting that better relationship? Is that about getting, in the first place, a seat at the table, making sure that you are seen and heard as a tax manager or even a head of tax, and getting closer to where the decisions are taking or the important work is happening?
It really depends on the organization, the culture, right? There is a lot of organization where, it's just important to be loud, and it's not that important how much you're, how value it is, how much added value the things are doing, right? And then there's the other thing, which is called so-called boarding management, essentially, right? It's the idea is that, well, the best managers are those who do their things, who don't create artificial crisis, but just solve problem, have good plan, figure out what to do, and just get things done. And I prefer the second way of doing it, but this means you need to be an organization that's valuing these kind of things, right? And I think I was either lucky in the past or I just connected with managers, right? So you need to work with them. And it's all about, I would say, building trust and relationship. So the better. If you get assigned a job, right? Do it on time, don't under-deliver, right? Do what you promise. Or if some unforeseen situation happens, right? They just own the situation. Don't try to blame others. Say, hey, this happened. This is the way I will prevent it next time, right? This is what we learned. And this should work in a normal organization, right? And afterwards, the more objectives you meet, the more jobs you fulfill the way you promised you will, the more trust you gain from your boss. And the more trust you gain, the more he will trust you, right? So trust is self-reinforcing. Relationship is something we need to build I would say, from below. But trust is something which works both ways, right? And it's built on these relationships you've done, on the jobs you accomplish. Then you can see, hey, I'm trustworthy, and you will get the things, right? And sometimes work out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have good bosses, sometimes you don't have good bosses, right? Doesn't matter. Still do your job, do what you need to do. And then, either they'll be move on or you will find a different situation, but you did something with your life, you learned, you got new skills, and you could move to the next step towards the goal you have. And I'm not saying head of tax is the ultimate goal. So everybody needs to define their own goals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think maybe that's also bringing us back to the why of our work. I guess the more you can highlight the why of specific tax jobs, tax related work, the more you also can convince the stakeholders about the importance, and the more you will maybe organically be rooted to the better type of work, the more strategic type of work, and getting that seat or that good relationship with maybe the high up people in the organization, right? If the why is clear, then, and that is maybe, I'm curious how to hear how you think about it. That is maybe something which can be observed, where we as tax people sometimes struggle with to sufficiently highlight the why of what we are doing, right? What is your view on that?
Um, yes, yes. So what I've noticed, especially for example, it doesn't really matter. It can be any organization, right? I mean, tax sometimes feels like a stepchild of finance, right? We are somewhere on the border. And this is somewhat related to the role of tax. It changed a lot in the last 10, 20 years. So I would say like 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, the biggest contribution tax had was creating value through tax planning, tax structuring, reducing the effective tax rate. This is getting harder, right? We cannot create aggressive tax structure. We cannot do some artificial stuff which was there just because there was form or substance.
Yeah.
And in the eyes of our stakeholders, this means we are losing this position. So a lot of businesses look at tax these days as only something which is, compliance. You need to do it, otherwise you'll have problems, right? And the truth is somewhere in between. And the way you need to communicate is the way I did it right now, it's too long. You can't do this because nobody will listen to you. So you need to boil down to the basics. And the basics are we are creating value, we are protecting value. So all the compliance thing is actually value protection. All the structuring thing or the planning within the rules is value creation. And the funny thing with the executives and the leadership and the C-suite is, they don't really, I mean, they do care about value protection. In a sense, it needs to be done, but they're really streaming towards value, adding value creation. What can you do to increase the value of the shares? Can you increase can you increase the value of the company? So if you can figure out what's important for them, that's golden. That's the golden ticket, right? That's what you need to do. At the same time, you need to protect the existing value, which means, yes, of course, you need to do all the compliance stuff, make sure your invoices are proper, that you file the returns, that you speak with the tax authorities. But nobody is going to applaud you for that, That's something that needs to happen.
Can I maybe interrupt you here for a second, because it's really thought provoking, like your value protection versus value creation type of thinking. I tend to agree to a large extent, but I'm also I'm taking the position here that there is a lot of value creation also in compliance. Hear me out. Can be that if you are compliant, if you take proactive approach, if you promote transparency in your compliance, that you have better relationships with your stakeholders, maybe your investors, your customers, the tax authorities, the overall communities. What is your view like? Because I get that compliance smells a bit like value protection and not creation. But are you agreeing there that there is definitely also value that can be found in compliance itself, or are you like, man, no, this is only in the more strategic structuring type of activity, and compliance is just seen as protecting, putting numbers in boxes, low value add?
See, here's the thing. I personally am not disagreeing with you. I'm on your side. I agree it's really important. You need to do it, right? The thing is, it's something which is expected. You need to do it. That's, if you look at a job, there was a really good advice. It's such an old book. It's from, it's McCormick wrote it in his What They Don't Teach You in Harvard Business School. But I think it's from 60s or 70s, right? And he said basically every job you have, there will be 80% of your job will be like what people expect you to do, what you need to do, right? And then 20%, if you're lucky, is where you can excel. And yes, you absolutely need to have compliance. This is the basic for everything. If you're not compliant, everything it's like foundation of a house. You can't build a skyscraper if you don't have solid foundations. You need to have it. The problem is nobody looks at them because they're below the ground, right? Everybody is focused on what is above the ground. So I agree with you, needs to be done. Without it, you're nothing, right? Without compliance, you're nothing. But the reality is, the mentality of the executives at the high level is they expect this as granted. If you can't do it, then you're not the right job. You're not the person for the job. Don't brag about compliance because you need to do it. That's expected from head of tax. Where you can add value, when you can really impress them is, hey guys, I have this idea. This will add so much additional value one way or another, right? And it's not fair. It's not fair, but that's life.
Yeah, I hear you, and it's to what you're saying. Like it's tax as a below the line item, or tax as maybe only in specific places in the P&L where our stakeholders only look at those places. Whereas obviously there is so much more, which is more implicit value, but comes with a lot of value. And I like the fact that we are having this discussion about value in any case. I really love the protecting versus creating value. What are other examples or ways that you see that a head of tax can truly add value beyond the things we just already said, like to inspire also the audience here? Because I think in the end, again, this boils down to getting that seat on the table. And if we can show and demonstrate that we are valuable, we will get there. We will get the budget we need. We will get the additional resources we need. So what are your thoughts there? What are other forms of creation of value that heads of tax can aspire?
So look, we are at scale up level. We are not yet cash positive from what we're doing, right? And I think there are a lot of organizations who are a similar situation where they are just burning cash. They are maybe profitable, not that much profitable. They need to get, additional funding. Like, Stevi, your organization, it's getting funding in, right?
Yeah.
So for us, saving, for example, on taxes, it's not that important because I can, even if I save like huge percentage of taxes, we are not paying a lot of taxes because of all the past net operating losses and tax credits on. So it's not a huge value, not a huge number. It's nice. It's absolutely nice if we can structure in a way which is compliant with all the rules and which follows the substance, but it doesn't make a big impact. On the other hand, what really was and is important in scale-ups, for example, is can we save on financing? Can we find a way? Because, you heard companies around different regions and then they have all, the setups. Can you find a way where you really can save on financing needs, right? And that is interesting thought. I think it's not something what usually had a taxes challenge with, but if you can find a way to do it, I can bet you the leadership will be super happy about it.
Is it your working capital and your funding that you attract as a company, or what do you mean financing
It
wise?
could be anything, and I'm not distancing myself from my company because I'm not going into these details, right? But it could be anything what you
Yeah,
said. Don't go. The normal thought with creating value with taxes is how much taxes can I save,
yeah,
and that's great for organization that has this huge profits. But there might be other needs, as you said. Working capital. Can we help with valuation of the company? Can we help with whatever, where we don't need, can we help somehow not to burn cash as much as we used to, right? You
Hmm.
can really look at different things. And the funny thing is, this goes back to the MBA. You need this knowledge to be able to speak to the people, because the normal tax knowledge is, hey, this is how my expenses are have, this is how much income I have, this is the tax rate, this is how much tax we pay, can we somehow shave this off, right? That's I think that's outdated, really. Tax function, if properly integrated into a business, can really help on all sides, right? Adding value, for example, would be, which is then close to compliance as well, but it's not compliant, is can you help your supply chain, right? So your supply people, your purchase people, your manufacturing business run operations frictionless, right? Can you ensure that there will be, they will have no problem with their suppliers or buyers? And you can smooth out any potential problems with anything which is related, to taxes, like withholding tax. If you have licensing, right, you want to be sure that there is an agreement who is paying the withholding tax if it pops up, right? You can help with, there is no VAT in export, or if there is VAT assessed at a later time, who is going to pay it? Hopefully not us, right? How can you help your business to do it? Can you speak with your other people, in your counterpart at vendor or supplier, and smooth out the things which came up? Can you help your business to operate better, smoother, more lubricated, frictionless, and do their business better? Because the idea of tax is we are supporting them, and what we want to do is we want our core business to focus on core business. We can help create value, but let's be honest, the value which will be created in the business comes from the core business. Our main role is really help them to focus on their job and their job only, and take away whatever distracts them. Take away the distraction. That's adding value in our business.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And also, I mean, from my in-house past, I have that experience that being involved in supplier or customer contracts and making it smooth to close those contracts, make sure that the tax clauses and positions that should be taken are as frictionless as possible, are supporting the business. That is true business support. That is really gold for the entire organization, which goes way beyond as tax as a below the line item, right?
Agreed. And the funny thing you mentioned here is, or a very good example you mentioned here is, you can approach there. In theory, there are two extreme approaches how to do it. One is, you said, this is our policy, we want to have this clause, this is important, blah blah blah, and this will not make you really popular with other business, right? But then, if you think about it, what we discussed before, you can also, and on the other hand, you could say, hey, yeah, I'm not even going to bother them because they will be, they won't like me and they will think. But that's also, the other extreme. But there in between is I think, the proper approach, or something what, is helpful, is you speak with the business, you make them understand the why. Here comes the why into play. They need to understand why they need to follow certain rules, why it's important for them, right? And then you figure out what you need to do, and then you figure out how you will do it, right? And this brings them on your side. They will support you. And even though this is really close to compliance, right, it adds value to them. They will speak good of you, and eventually it will come around to the CFO, and he will say, hey, they are doing a good job, right? So it pays to be good to the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is probably what it takes to take away that that stamp or that qualification we sometimes get, what you are referring to, tax as the stepchild of finance. Because I think that is indeed something that I hear all the time, where I'm struggling to understand that, to be honest, because I mean, with all due respect also for finance people, but tax is so much more than a cost center or a routine function, right? We all know that, and we are just discussing the reasons why. But still, we are seen as that little sister of finance, sitting somewhere in a corner, putting numbers in boxes. Probably the biggest reason for it is the complexity of our domain. But then again, to what you said before, highlighting the why of everything we do in the right language can definitely be helpful.
Yes, and I'm really happy and glad I'm, on the culture and organization in the company I work now at Dermavant. We are really close tied. We are part of finance team. We are not separated. We are part of the finance team. We work with them, and the best way to do it is, yes, it was exactly as said. Understand, make them understand why we are doing certain things, not just we do them because we have to. That's the what, and the how. They need to understand the why.
Yeah.
And the one thing is, if there is this divide between finance and tax, I mean, it's easy to blame the finance people, right? Because it's them, it's others. But probably, to be honest, it makes more sense to do an introspective and ask yourself, why is this? What can I do to improve it? How I can do it? Will one-on-one calls with certain people or meetings with certain people help? Should I ask my team to do the same with their counterparts, right? Should I do the briefings? What I can do, and usually it goes down to the communication, right? But with communication, there is the thing: don't have communication just because of communication. You know this expression, right? This meeting could have been an email, right? Don't present. You need to custom tailor the communication to the people you're target. To target, not your target audience, specific people you're speaking to. Keep it short, keep it precise, keep it clear, focus on what is important to them. And that's not easy. That's the skills you need to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us back to your earlier statement. You said like, yeah, every day we should try to get a bit better. And these are like those things where in the heat of the moment, we are just, yeah, falling back in old habits. And we just drop that massively complex memo on the desk of our stakeholder without, to your point, the right message, which is aligned to the target audience, and then simplifying it and bringing the why and whatnot. By the way, so what do you then suggest, like, to keep that top of mind, like those incremental small improvements that we need to push ourselves on a daily basis? Do you have any life hacks there to do that for yourself? Like, Tom, for today, I'm going to try this out, and then by the end of the day, you do an evaluation, or what are your tips there?
I'll give you an example which has nothing to do with taxes, right? So I have a new dog. She's now just a year old. And about half a year for my birthday, my wife gifted me with, it's called Gorak. It's a rack, and you put weights into it, right? And I started with 10 pounds, which is like 5 kilo. And after 3 days, I said, because the idea was I walk my dog every day for, 1 hour average or minimum, I would say. Sometimes we go twice a day, we have time. And yeah, I'm walking, right? It doesn't really improve me, but if I have some weights on it, it really helps with core body, with movements, muscle development, with just feeling better. And 10 pounds, it's not a big deal. It wasn't. After 2 days, I switched to 20 pounds. And yeah, then I needed like 2 weeks, and it hurt like hell in the beginning. Now I'm at about a bit over 40 pounds, so like 20 kilos, a bit less, right? And it hurts every day. But it means I'm improving my muscles, right? I can, and every day you take a bit more, you take a bit different route, you just, walk a bit faster, and it's fun. It's just a fun activity, right? It hurts, it's fun. And the thing is, not every day I will do the same thing, right? Because sometimes you can't. You have different things, you don't have time, you don't have energy. But what I'll do is, if I have like 80% of the energy, then I will do, these 80%, so I'll still give my 100% to do it. And it will be better than not to do it, right? So the idea is it's not like you need to do every day something new. It's can you be a bit better than you used to be in the past, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I like that. It's very insightful and inspiring to hear that from you. Tom, maybe as a final question here, what is for the entire audience? What is your most important piece of advice that you would give to the people that are listening to make progress in their career, to progress in life? What is your biggest message that you want to share here?
I would say, be curious. I know it sounds really, but really try to improve yourself. I said this a lot of times, But the other thing I would say is also have fun along the way, figure out what you're doing. Is this really for you? Do you enjoy it? Do you want to do something else? Don't stop at something. Even if you did something, like made the goal in the past, and you see are you progressing towards this goal or not, reevaluate it, right? It's not something set in stone. It's more like, hey, am I enjoying this? Is this what I want to do? And then, if it is great, if it's not, figure out what else you want to do or how you want to improve it.
Hmm.
So, it's more, I think in the end it goes down to, again, personal development.
Absolutely. So I recall definitely like the personal incremental improvements. Be curious. I like as well. Definitely like in our day to day jobs, because as tax people we should also for the reasons you mentioned, to get closer to our stakeholders, to the business. Showing some curiosity definitely helps there. So that makes a lot of sense. And then absolutely having fun, although it can be sometimes challenging to forget the reason why we are doing all of it, but that is important, because without the fun, our personal development will definitely be blocked as well.
Agreed, agreed. And the other thing, maybe what I would add is, read books and listen to podcasts. I mean, there are so many sources out there. It just, it helps. It helps. There
Do
will
you have
not.
any book or podcast that you want to share here, like to close off?
Well, the podcast, I listen to a lot of these. Joko Willink was, and the Tim Ferriss, for example, Huberman, right? These are the things which are fun, but there are so many different things as well. And for the books, I have, the whole array. I was again show to Joko Willink. He has this idea of extreme ownership where he says, whatever happens, take the ownership, even if it's not your fault, because ownership is not fault, right? For example, if you were late to somewhere because there was a huge crash on the motorway, right? Say, hey, sorry, I'm late. That's it, right? Don't try to find blame somewhere else, because if you're trying to find blame somewhere else, you won't grow, right? And then the next step is, what can I do to prevent it? Should I go fast sooner? Should I take a different route? Should I just, not cut it so close, right?
I like the fact that we bring like proven ideas and frameworks and theories into the tax domain, because we should not reinvent the warm water or the wheel. We should just make sure that we just insource all of that knowledge into our domain, because there is so much out there. Fully agree there. I think, Tom, This was a very interesting conversation. Thanks a lot. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of valuable stuff has been discussed here. So thanks a lot. And yeah, let's stay close.
Thank you, Stevi. I enjoyed it too. And yes, it was fun. And that's all in it, right? That's the key.
Thank you.